The meeting virtually. At the end of the meeting, a leader's statement was issued on the basis of consensus reached among the leaders. And at the invitation of the Saudi presidency, Chinese President Xi Jinping attended the meeting, and he spoke as one of the three lead speakers at the very beginning of the discussion section. My presentation is divided into two parts. The first part is on the key outcomes of the leaders' statement, which in a minute will circulate for your reference. But I would suppose it will soon, if it is not already online, from the Saudi presidency. As far as we are concerned, we are fully behind the leader's statement, as we see it as strong, action-oriented, and forward-looking. The aim is very clear, as was made very, as was demonstrated through the interventions by the leaders, that the aim for the group is to work together to save lives, arrest the spread of the virus, protect jobs and livelihoods, and stabilize the global economy. The overarching theme of the statement, again as evidenced by the discussions that took place, is a strong message on solidarity. There's a keen awareness among leaders that we're in this together and we need to get out of this together as well. And this is a global crisis. Some leaders were talking about a twin crisis of public health and the global economy. And it was, I think, widely agreed among leaders that we need to mount a collective, even a global response. Thus, the leaders in the statement called for a transparent, robust, coordinated, large-scale, and science-based global response in the spirit of solidarity. Given the circumstances, we believe this is what the world looks forward to from G20 as a major platform for crisis management, economic cooperation, and global governance. Quite a few leaders mentioned the origin of G20, the financial crisis that gave birth to the group, and its role as a major forum for international cooperation and global governance. And quite a few leaders mentioned that the whole world is now, during this crisis, looking up to G20 for leadership. The statement outlined some specific actions on fighting the pandemic. The leaders emphasized the need to protect frontline health workers and committed to promoting information exchange, joint research and development, expanding medical supplies, manufacturing capacity, and bolstering coordination towards the rapid development, manufacturing, and distribution of diagnostics, antiviral medicines, and vaccines. In terms of resources, members made a voluntary commitment to support WHO's Strategic Preparedness and Response Plan, WHO COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund, and other international initiatives, including CEPI and Gavi, for some of you that are more familiar with these nomenclature. Finance and health ministers have also been tasked to assess gaps in pandemic preparedness, with a view to exploring the establishment of a global initiative on pandemic preparedness and response. The statement also stressed the importance of stabilizing the world economy. G20 members committed to do whatever it takes. So that's the words the leaders used. They promised to do whatever it takes and to use all available policy tools, be it fiscal or monetary, to minimize the economic and social damage from the pandemic, restore global growth, maintain market stability, and strengthen resilience. The summit announced an injection of over $5 trillion into the global economy as part of targeted fiscal policy, economic measures, and guarantee schemes to counteract the social, economic, and financial impacts of the pandemic. The figure of over 5 trillion was arrived at through the addition of the macroeconomic policy measures adopted in respective G20 member economies as communicated to the Saudi presidency. G20 leaders have also reaffirmed commitment to facilitating international trade, resolving disruptions to the global supply chains, and they also reiterated the previously agreed goal of realizing a free, fair, non-discriminatory, transparent, predictable, and stable trade and investment environment, and more importantly, to keep markets open. These extraordinary measures and strong commitments will offer much-needed resources and hopefully will boost market confidence for a robust recovery in growth. The second part of my presentation is about President Xi Jinping's comment on the topics at hand for the leaders. As I indicated, as one of the three lead speakers, President Xi Jinping spoke on working together to defeat the COVID-19 outbreak. And in his intervention, he put forward the following proposals. First, to take resolute collective measures against COVID-19. Specifically, China proposed a G20 COVID-19 assistance initiative for better information sharing and policy and action coordination with the support of WHO. We also called for stronger support for developing countries with weak public health systems to enhance their preparedness and response. China also supported the role of international organizations in this regard, and particularly we support scaling up of support for the WHO and other relevant organizations. Second, to promote joint control and prevention at the international level. As a concrete step, China has set up an online COVID-19 knowledge center that is open to all countries. The President also called for pooling resources for research and development on diagnostics, medicinal drugs, vaccines, and therapeutic treatment. Third, to enhance international macroeconomic policy coordination. China is committed to implementing strong and effective fiscal and monetary policies to counteract the negative impact and prevent the impact of the pandemic and prevent the world from falling into recession. For your information, we have communicated to the Saudi presidency as part of the overall commitments made by the G20 members, as part of the overall 5 trillion package, so to speak. We have communicated the figure of a totality of $344 billion in terms of mainly fiscal measures, and about 1,200 billion is money that has already been allocated and in most cases spent for combating COVID-19. In the first 2 months since the outbreak of the pandemic within the country. So it's outlays at various levels of government. And on top of that, there is 1,000 billion renminbi yuan in terms of tax reductions as incentives, as support for mainly businesses, including small and medium-sized businesses. And another part is about 12,000, that is 10,000 renminbi yuan in tax reductions. Another part is 12,000 billion RMB yuan in terms of what we call released liquidity and targeted tools. So these are used to support the business sector as well. So that's adds up to about, again, 344 billion US. China has also made commitments to increasing supply of medicines, including generic drugs, PPE, personal protection equipment, and other medical supplies to the international market. We're also working together with other partners to preserve the integrity and stability of global industrial and supply chains. The President also called for concerted actions by G20 members to reduce tariffs and other trade barriers. The remarks of President Xi resonated strongly with other G20 leaders and has contributed to a very positive and constructive discussion at the meeting, where leaders, all the leaders, focused on consensus building, on cooperation, on what we can do together on both fronts, to contain the spread of the virus and to stabilize our respective economies and the global economy. In conclusion, as far as China is concerned, we are happy with the outcomes of the extraordinary summit, and we look forward to working together with others, including the G20 member countries as well as the international organizations, to translate what was agreed into concrete actions. So that is the presentation I'd like to make, and now I'm ready to answer your questions.
And that was the Chinese Foreign Ministry statement on the outcomes of the G20 summit. This year's G20 took place virtually by video conferencing, hosted by Saudi Arabia, and the members committed to $5 trillion to inject this into the global economy to counteract the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we'll leave it there on this edition of The World Today. I'm Xiaoyang. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in a few minutes for The Link.